That night at the company team building event, the light suddenly went out, and I began kissing the general manager, Marcus, passionately on the sofa. His cheeks were flush crimson, his breathing heavy and ragged, and I couldn't help but make noises myself. Suddenly, the lights blazed on, and my colleagues stared at us with strange expressions, teasing me about how engrossed I was. It was then that I realized the sounds had been too loud, and everyone had heard everything. A month later, I married Marcus without a hitch, becoming the general manager's wife everyone envied. After our wedding, he lavished affection upon me. If I was even slightly unhappy, he would move heaven and earth to please me. Everyone envied my good fortune, however. In the 3rd year of my marriage to Marcus, I accidentally lost my marriage certificate. When I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau for a replacement, the receptionist informed me, "Madam, the registered wife of Mr. Marcus you mentioned is not you." I was stunned, convinced it misheard. How could that be? "We took our wedding photo 3 years ago and received our certificate right here." The receptionist rechecked and then looked at me with sympathetic eyes. "The system indicates that Mr. Marcus Shaw is indeed married, but your marital status remains single." I was completely stunned. "The system lists another woman, Vivian Lee, as his wife. Do you know her?" My head felt like it was exploding, and my ears were ringing. Everyone at the company knew that I was the apple of Marcus Shaw's eye from the moment I started. He meticulously planned and was determined to make me his wife. Vivian Lee, on the other hand, was merely someone who resembled me, a substitute he sought out in his moments of solitude. I stared at our group photo, returning to the car in a daze. 2 messages popped up on my phone. "Zoe, I turned down a client that could have brought in millions in orders specifically to buy you the limited edition long dress you wanted. I'll be home soon. I really want to hold you. Do you miss me?" Looking at these messages, I suddenly laughed. But the laughter soon dissolved into tears that streamed down my phone screen. For 3 years of marriage, he told me every day that he wanted to hold me, and I always thought it was an expression of his deep and abiding love. But I never expected that he had secretly married Vivian long ago. I remember a time I went abroad alone to negotiate a project. His eyes were bloodshot, and he left a kiss on my neck. "Finish the negotiation in a month. If it takes even an hour longer, I'll come find you." And during that month, he video called me every night and watched me fall asleep. Once, I went to a subsidiary to work and didn't return for a week. When I called him, his flustered secretary answered, "President Shaw is going to jump." When I arrived, he was standing on the roof, looking at me desolately. "Zoe, I thought you didn't want me anymore." I stepped forward and pulled his trembling body down. "Of course not. I'll always be with you." It wasn't until I got him down from the rooftop that I saw the dense, crisscrossing cuts on his wrist. The blood was still fresh. Later, I landed a major deal and quietly went home to surprise him. But when I pushed open the door, I found him in bed with a woman. She turned around, and her face in the mirror looked 70% like mine. I immediately threw down the contract and stormed out. He chased after me in his car like a madman. I ignored his messages. He pleaded downstairs for 2 days in the rain, soaked to the bone and ending up in the hospital. Delirious with a fever of 42 degrees, he kept calling out my name. My heart softened, and I went back to the hospital to care for him. But in the 2nd month, Vivian showed up in his office, the supposed replacement for me who had supposedly been fired long ago. She's a college student from a remote mountain village, and it's not easy for her to find a job at our company. He smiled at me. Hearing that, I felt like a complete joke. Back at the company, as I stepped into the corridor, I overheard Marcus talking to a friend. "Are you crazy? You worked your tail off to get Zoe and promised to marry her. Now you've turned around and married Vivian. She just looks a little like Zoe. How does she even compare?" Marcus said slowly, "I used to think I loved Zoe, but after driving Vivian away, whenever I spent time with Zoe, my mind was filled with Vivian's image. I know now that I love her too. She merely resembles Zoe and shouldn't spend her life living in her shadow, deserving only my charitable affection. I want to bring her back and give her complete love." "Ms. Summers, do you know what to do? When she saw you two together before, she didn't even come back when you were deathly ill." Marcus sighed. "I'll keep the news secret. I won't let anyone at the company tell her." Hearing this, I was utterly devastated. I thought he only loved me, but I never imagined he would be publicly affectionate with me while secretly having an affair with Vivian. I felt a wave of nausea and turned to leave. Once I arrived at the office building, I silently submitted my resignation. 5 minutes later, a staff member told me, "Ms. Summers, In 1 month you will no longer be an assistant at Shaw Group. I turned and walked out. From that moment on, he would never find Zoe again. It was late when I got home. He rushed over and embraced me tightly. Zoe, why didn't you come to the company? I nearly turned the place upside down. I just found it amusing. I went for a walk and forgot to tell you. His expression softened as he produced a limited edition long dress, holding it up to me. Do you like it? Why don't you try it on? He looked agitated. Just then, his phone vibrated twice. He checked it, and his face changed. Zoe, there's been a problem with our order. He started searching for his car keys. I have to go to the company. Just take a shower and go to sleep. Don't wait up for me. With that, he drove off. Watching his car veer away from the direction of the company, I felt a pang of unease. It must be news from Vivian. With that thought, I started my car and followed slowly. The car pulled up to a maternity and child healthcare hospital. Through the window, I saw Vivian lying in bed, her lips pale. He sat beside her, his face etched with concern. President Shaw, it's all our fault. We didn't take good care of Ms. Lee, causing her to catch a cold. Several doctors bowed repeatedly. If you make my Vivian sick again, I'll have you all fired, he said harshly. Then he picked up a hot towel and wiped Vivian's forehead. Are you feeling better after taking the medicine? Vivian's face was pale. It's all my fault for being so weak and disturbing your evening with Ms. Summers, making you rush over to take care of me. What nonsense are you talking about? She's not as important as you are, he said softly. You saved my life, and you're my wife. It's only right that I take care of you. Get some rest these next few days. Hearing these words, I felt as if I'd fallen into an ice cave. Vivian saved his life. I remember a time when Shaw Group was targeted by a competitor, and Marcus was ambushed in an alley. But it was clearly me who sent people to rescue him. Could it be that Vivian saved his life even before that? As he spoke, he took off a jade pendant from his neck and placed it around Vivian's neck. This jade pendant is engraved with a bodhisattva, which will keep you safe always. Wear it from now on. Vivian threw herself into his arms and began to cry. He held her, patting her back reassuringly. Witnessing this, I stumbled back outside the window, my face already streaked with tears. That jade pendant was a gift from my mother before she passed. One I wore for a decade. On our wedding day, I gifted it to Marcus, hoping it would keep him safe always, yet he had placed it around another woman's neck. 4 days later, Marcus finally returned home. Zoe, I've prepared your favorite. He gently helped me into the car. The car stopped before a magnificent palace. He pulled me inside to reveal a clothing museum filled with silk, cheongsams, and a variety of French haute couture. Just shipping these ordinary long dresses cost millions. President Shaw truly spoils his wife. I stood in the middle of the hall, awestruck by the sheer opulence of each long dress. Marcus put his arm around my waist. Well, which one do you fancy? I'll buy it for you. Hearing those words, I felt a hollowness inside. Suddenly, a sharp pain ran through my stomach, and I frowned. Seeing my expression, Marcus quickly leaned down. What is it? Did you eat something that disagreed with you? Maybe it was something cold I ate yesterday, I said softly. He hurriedly started calling for a doctor, gently massaging my stomach. Half an hour later, President Shaw, the painkiller and heat patch are here. He turned to see Vivian, her face pale. Didn't I call for a doctor? Who asked you to come? He said suddenly, his face dark. Vivian, holding the bag of medicine, was covered in cold sweat and could barely stand. You just recovered from a fever. I told you not to come. I called for a doctor. Doctor is busy with a patient, his assistant. I was afraid calling him would delay the contract, and that Zoe would have to wait too long. So I brought the medicine myself. Vivian's eyes reddened, and her voice choked with sobs. Hearing this, Marcus's expression softened, replaced by concern. Let's go, Vivian. I'll take you to the dressing room first. Half an hour later, I walked past and glimpsed Vivian's camisole hanging on the doorframe. Not yet. Ms. Summers is still outside, listening to Vivian's gasps from inside. I felt nauseous. Was he really that eager? Don't worry about her. Marcus held her close. You came to find me right after having a fever. Are you trying to make my heart ache for you? Hearing the increasingly loud gasps from the fitting room, I covered my mouth, turned around, and went back to the exhibition hall. 2 hours later, they emerged from backstage. Vivian's shoulders were bare, and he gently covered them. Zoe, it's very windy outside, and it's inconvenient for Vivian to return. Let's stay and watch the fashion show together. I nodded, fighting back my nausea. the fashion show began, showcasing custom-made long dresses from fashion designers, robes specially designed for queens, and award-winning pieces from Paris Fashion Week. One after another, luxurious long dresses were revealed. Marcus looked at me, pointing to the long dress. Zoe, I saw you eyeing this particular dress at last year's Paris Fashion Week, so I bought it for you immediately. The host turned to me, Ms. Summers. This long dress had already been reserved by a French tycoon, but President Shaw offered a high price to purchase it. President Shaw truly spoils you. Hearing those words, Vivian lowered her head beside me. She walked to a golden garment rack, looking at its handle. What's this? She said, touching it. Don't move, a designer shouted. But it was too late. The metallic sound rang out, and the golden clothes rack crashed down. In that instant, Marcus instinctively shielded Vivian, while I was struck in the chest by the sharp rack and fainted. When I woke up, I saw Marcus holding Vivian in his arms. It's all my fault for messing with the handle, causing Zoe to be stabbed. I deserve to die. Don't blame yourself so much. It's not your fault, he said softly. If you really want to apologize, I'll punish you by making you kiss me. Hearing this, she lowered her head and, after a long pause, placed a kiss on his lips. Good girl. Marcus gently touched her flushed cheek. She instantly recoiled, shyly, listening to their conversation. I wept silently in my hospital bed. To celebrate my discharge, Marcus booked a 5-star hotel. I gazed at the lavish private room, my face betraying nothing. Are you still angry with me, Zoe? Sensing something amiss, he moved closer. I was in such a rush that day. I grabbed the wrong person. I was about to speak when a message flashed on his phone. A picture of Vivian, her mouth taped shut, covered in blood. Then another voice message followed. President Shaw, help me. My clothes have been torn off. It was Vivian's piercing scream. Where are you? He called back immediately. But the phone was switched off. He paced anxiously, then whirled around, glaring at me. Zoe, where are you hiding Vivian? He demanded fiercely. I was appalled. You suspect me? It's more than suspicion. He stared at me intently. Why was Vivian kidnapped at the very moment you were unhappy and harboring resentment towards her? So, I kidnapped her? I suddenly laughed, a mirthless sound. Marcus, what exactly is your relationship with her? Why are you pressuring me like this for her? Don't try to muddy the waters, he said harshly. I have no relationship with her. My chest heaved with anger. Each second ticked by, and he grew increasingly frantic. Vivian didn't do this intentionally. Where have you hidden her? I didn't hurt her. I don't know anything, I shouted. Hearing that, he shoved me violently, and my forehead struck the cabinet, drawing blood. Pull up the surveillance footage and see where Vivian went last, he ordered the assistant. Back home, I silently washed the blood from my face. Then, I threw all of our group photos, wedding photos, and the long dress he had given me into the trash. When I returned after throwing away the wedding ring, a dark figure suddenly covered my mouth from behind, and I lost consciousness. When I awoke, I was locked in a dark room. Through the crack in the door, I saw Marcus holding Vivian on the sofa. President Shaw, the person who harmed Ms. Lee has been caught. He claims he was instructed by the madam, the assistant said, and upon hearing this, Marcus clenched his fist. Vivian said softly, forget it, President Shaw. I wasn't really hurt, so let's not pursue it any further. This can't be the end of it. I can't bear to hurt you, Zoe, but I will make the person who hurt you pay the price. He had just turned around when Vivian glared at me with resentment. Seeing this, I understood that she had orchestrated everything. I wanted to tell Marcus everything, but my mouth was gagged, and only muffled sounds escaped. Half an hour later, the door opened, and Vivian's men dragged me out and threw me into a freezing cold storage. The frigid air, tens of degrees below zero, poured in, and I felt my entire body freezing, my blood ceasing to flow. Just as I was about to lose consciousness, the freezer door opened, and I was dragged out again. A few minutes later, I was thrown back into the freezer. This was repeated until my body was frozen, bruised, bleeding, and without a single patch of undamaged skin. After countless times, Marcus dragged me out. Dare to touch the one I love, and I'll make sure you never see the sunrise again. He picked up the nail clippers and began tearing out my fingernails. One by one, fresh blood flowed freely, and the pain stole my voice. 1, 2, until all 10 fingernails were gone. Then, he raised his foot and stomped on my fingers. Once, twice, until my bones shattered and I trembled uncontrollably. Only then did Marcus turn around, a look of satisfaction on his face, and pull Vivian into his arms. Get rid of her. I awoke to excruciating pain. My body was drenched in blood, and even the slightest movement sent agonizing jolts through me. My phone lit up with 2 new messages. The first was from Marcus. Zoe, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have treated you that way. I was afraid you would stray from the right path. Vivian caught a slight cold, so I'm staying with her for a few days. Once she's better, I'll come back and take care of you. The second message concerned company business. Ms. Zoe, your resignation has been approved, effective immediately. You are no longer employed as an assistant at Shaw Group. Seeing this message, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I calmly changed my clothes and packed up all my belongings, leaving nothing behind, save for 2 items. One was a jade pendant, the 20th birthday gift H given me. Zoe, I installed a pinhole camera inside. I want to keep an eye on you wherever you go. He must have forgotten it by now. All he has to do is open the company cloud drive, and he can see how he repeatedly locked me in the freezer, pulled out 10 of my fingernails, and brutally smashed my fingers. The second item was an old voice recorder containing recordings of vows he and I made from childhood onward. I pressed play, and the antiquated voice crackled to life. Zoe, grow up quickly. Once your hair is long enough, I can marry you the moment I'm grown. I want to marry Zoe and take her home. I can't wait even a second, Zoe. I will always love you. You are my world. I stopped the recording, silencing his youthful endearments. His words from when he stood on the roof echoed in my ears. Zoe, I thought you didn't want me anymore. I'll die. Then let him die. I grabbed my suitcase and got on the airport bus without looking back. Then I threw away all the blood-stained towels, completely severing ties with the past. From now on, Marcus would never find me. Meanwhile, at the Shaw Group in the distance, Marcus was embracing Vivian, and they were kissing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. President Shaw, Ms. Summers hasn't come to the company yet. I hope nothing's happened to her, Vivian said softly as she touched her wound. Marcus noticed her expression and stepped forward to embrace her with concern. She hired someone to kidnap you. Of course, she's too ashamed to show her face at the company. Hearing this, Vivian lowered her head, a smug smile playing on her lips. You saved my life back then. Now that she seeks to harm you, she deserves to die and never return, she stated coldly.